The Galactic Academy of Zavaris Prime had seen many exchange students over its 400-year history. Delegates from the Quorum Worlds, apprentices from the Singing Nebula, even a pair of crystalline beings from the Deep Void who communicated entirely through resonant frequency. The Academy prided itself on its diversity. But a human? That was new. Ella arrived on a Tuesday morning, or what passed for Tuesday on a planet with 3 moons and a 31-hour day. She was 17, 5'4", carrying a backpack that was slightly too large for her frame and a travel mug of coffee that had gone cold 6 hours ago on the transit shuttle. She had brown hair pulled into a loose braid, a jacket with a small iron-on patch of Earth's flag on the sleeve, and the particular expression of someone who had already decided they were not going to be intimidated, no matter what. The classroom was a curved amphitheater carved from living coral stone. The seats were designed for beings of varying limb configurations. Ella found one that more or less worked for a biped and sat down. Around her, her classmates turned to look. Joe was first, a tall, four-armed being of the Veth species, whose pale blue skin shifted color depending on mood. Right now, Joe shimmered with gold, curiosity, amusement, or something close to it. "You are the human," Joe said. It was not a question. "Ella," she replied, extending her hand. Joe stared at the hand, extended one of their own 4 arms, tentatively. They shook. Joe looked faintly horrified and faintly delighted. "Nay," pronounced with a soft hum that Ella's vocal cords could not fully replicate, was a compact being from the Dolori system, their body a dense knot of shifting gray matter that held a vaguely humanoid shape. They communicated partly through speech, partly through color pulses from their skin. They sat 2 rows up and had already been studying Ella since she walked in. "Humans are soft," Nay observed. "No exoskeleton, no secondary skin. Vulnerable to blunt trauma, puncture, extreme temperature, and apparently also to something called gluten, if the research briefings are accurate. Most of us do fine with gluten," Ella said. Day, full name unpronounceable by any species with fewer than 3 tongues, was a Scarathi, tall, insectoid, with iridescent wings folded flat against their back and compound eyes that saw in 17 spectrums. Day sat perfectly still in the way that insects do, which looked wrong but was simply efficient. "The research briefings also say humans engage in recreational conflict," Day noted. "They call it sport. We also call it war sometimes," Ella said pleasantly. Context matters. Hai was the smallest being in the room, a juvenile luminari, basically a child by their species standards, though luminari juveniles possessed photon-processing brains that made them calculating geniuses. Hai was 8 years old in luminari reckoning and had the deadpan delivery of a tax auditor. Statistically, Hai said, humans have the shortest lifespan of any sapient species in recorded galactic history. Average, 79 Terran years. For reference, I am expected to live 11,000. "Good for you," said Ella. "I plan to make my 79 count." Chris, her assigned academic partner, was Veth like Joe, but younger, with a leaner build and markings along his neck that turned red when he was irritated. He had been assigned to help Ella navigate the academy. He had accepted this duty with the visible enthusiasm of someone asked to carry something heavy uphill. "You will struggle," Chris told her on that first day. "The curriculum here covers dimensional calculus, xenobiology across 47 phyla, and advanced psionics theory. Humans have only recently discovered faster-than-light travel. No offense." "Some taken," Ella said. "But let's see how it goes." It happened 6 weeks into the semester. The Academy ran what it called scenario sessions, full immersion tactical simulations used to teach applied strategy, resource allocation, and crisis decision-making. They were treated as academic exercises. No one got hurt. The scenarios were safe, contained, and scored. That session simulation, a colony ship suffering cascading system failures. Hull breach in Section 7. Life support degrading. A rescue shuttle available, but with limited capacity. 36 simulated passengers. The students were divided into teams. Each team had to manage the crisis independently, then compare outcomes. The team, Ella, Chris, Joe, Nay, Day, and Hai. The scenario began. Chris immediately started running probability matrices on the rescue shuttle's load capacity. Nay began calculating atmospheric decay rates in the damaged sections. Day interfaced with the ship's sensor array, scanning for structural failure points. Hai was already 3 steps ahead, quietly modeling the entire scenario in a mental space that the rest of them couldn't access. Ella started walking through the ship. "Where are you going?" Chris called after her. "Looking," she said. "The data is all right here. I want to see it." She moved through the simulated corridors. The program was immersive: temperature, sounds, even the smell of scorched wiring and recycled air. Around her, virtual passengers huddled in groups, some injured, some panicking, some eerily calm in the way that shock made people calm. She came back 3 minutes later. "There's a maintenance crawl space on deck 4, she said. "It runs parallel to the damaged section and accesses an emergency pressure valve manually. If someone goes in and bleeds the atmosphere slowly from section 7 before it fully vents, it slows the hull stress. Buys us maybe 40 minutes. Nay looked up. "That crawl space is not rated for atmospheric pressure differential above 0.6. If the breach progresses, then the person inside has to get out before it does," Ella said. "Which means someone goes in knowing the risk, keeps eyes on the pressure readings, and moves fast when the numbers change." Silence. "That is a significant personal risk factor," Day said carefully. "Yes," Ella agreed. "It is." "You are proposing," Hai said slowly, their young voice processing this at 11,000 years worth of processing speed, "that one individual accept elevated danger voluntarily to improve outcomes for the group." "I'm proposing someone go in there and do it," Ella said. "I'll go." Chris stared at her. His neck markings had gone very red. "You are aware this is a simulation," he said. "I'm aware," she said. "But we're here to learn how to make real decisions, right? So I'll go." She went in. The crawl space was tight, even in simulation. Ella moved on her elbows, reading pressure gauges, talking in short clipped sentences over comms as Chris relayed updated breach numbers. The hull stress crept upward. Nay's voice came over the line. Calm, mathematical. 0.4 differential, 0.5. And Ella worked the valve in short controlled bursts, bleeding pressure exactly as much as she dared. 0.58, Nay said. "How much room do I have?" A pause. "Approximately 90 seconds before I recommend exit. Then I have 90 seconds. She kept working. Outside the crawl space, Chris watched the readouts. He had run the numbers. He had run them 3 times. The probability of a successful manual bleed at that pressure differential, performed by a being with no exoskeleton and baseline human stress tolerances, was not favorable. And she was still in there. Joe's skin had gone pale silver, concern. Day had gone very still. I said nothing. Just watched the numbers. 0.59, Nay said. "Almost," Ella said. "Ella." The pressure line stabilized. Not completely. Not perfectly. But enough. Enough that the hull stress began to plateau, and the cascade failure slowed, and the 40 minutes she had promised them materialized on the countdown clock. She came back out of the crawl space covered in simulated grime, breathing hard, with a small cut on her forearm from a panel edge that the program had rendered with full physical accuracy. She looked at her team. "Now let's go get those passengers on the shuttle," she said. "Hi. You've got the load optimization. I trust your math more than mine. Chris, you're on navigation. Joe, Nay, you're triage. Day, I need you watching that hull stress the whole time." Everyone good. They moved. When the simulation ended, they had saved 34 of 36 passengers. The Academy average for that scenario was 19. The debrief room was quiet. Finally, Hai spoke. "Your biological limitations," Hai said, with the particular precision of a being who had just had a data model revised in real time, "appear to be compensated for by a remarkably high tolerance for acceptable risk. Humans call it something else," Joe said. Their skin was warm gold again. I looked it up. "What do they call it?" They asked. Joe looked at Ella. Ella shrugged and picked up her cold coffee. "Stubbornness, mostly," she said. "Some of us call it courage. Depends on whether it works out." Chris said nothing for a long moment. His neck markings had faded from red to something quieter, something that, in Veth color language, roughly translated to respect, or perhaps its older, more honest synonym, "I was wrong about you." He didn't say it aloud. He didn't need to. Outside the Academy's tall windows, Zavaris Prime's 3 moons were rising. One silver, one gold, one the deep red of a fire that has been burning for a very long time. Ella finished her cold coffee and started on the next problem set. She had 63 years left, if the statistics were right. She intended to use all of them.